Many of you may have heard of the name Panglima Awang, and perhaps confuse him with Enrique of Melaka, Magellan's Malay interpreter who accompanied him on his voyage around the world. But let's be clear, Panglima Awang was never Enrique's name. That association is a modern invention, popularized by Harun Aminurrashid's 1950s novel of the same name, in which the main character, Panglima Awang, is fictional and his exploits on the whole imagined. But what if I told you there is an actual Panglima Awang in the historical record? A real one. A half-Chinese, half-Malay pirate commander, a Panglima, who terrorized the waters around the Malay Peninsula in the 1830s, hunted by British and Dutch warships alike. A shadowy figure who carved his name across the waves, not in daring exploration, but in blood. In the early decades of the 1800s, piracy flourished across the Malay Peninsula. Rapidly increasing trade between Western and Asian powers made the region rich pickings for any daring pirate. The geographical advantages of the straits, including unexplored rivers, estuaries, creeks, and numerous small islands where pirates could not be pursued, these provided ideal conditions to operate and evade capture. With many Malay states weakened by civil war, and the early European trading settlements still lacking in naval firepower, there was no central authority that could exert full control over these marauding bands of sea robbers. In this chaotic maelstrom of anarchy, robbery, and murder, Panglima Awang emerged, a figure whose origins defied the archetype of the Malay sea robber. What made Panglima Awang distinctive was his Chinese ancestry, a rare thing among commanders of Malay pirate fleets. Witnesses reported that he was of mixed Chinese and Malay heritage and began life as a Chinese merchant. But when his trading crossed into piracy, he crossed cultures too. He converted to Islam and adopted Malay dress and customs, even a Malay name. He forged a new identity that enabled his meteoric rise as one of the most feared pirates in the seas around the Malay Peninsula. Awang soon earned a fearsome reputation throughout the 1830s. His fleet targeted rich merchant ships, including larger, more heavily armed vessels that other Malay pirates usually avoided. And unlike other pirates, his attacks were informed by meticulous reconnaissance gathered in trading ports like Singapore and Penang, including cargo lists, armament details, and even departure schedules. But when he struck, he employed classic Malay pirate tactics: fast, nimble, oar-driven perahus swarming their victim like mosquitoes. The Pirate's Own Book by Charles Elms, published in 1837, describes the typical Malay pirate prahu. These were 6 to 8 ton vessels, between 11 and 15 meters in length. They were equipped with light sails as well as oars, enabling them to move at speed even on windless seas. They typically carried 1 or 2 small guns, along with 4 swivel guns or rentakas, mounted at the bow, center, and stern, and they had a crew of 20 to 30 well-armed men. When boarding ships, they would raise a strong bulwark of thick planks for protection. Malay pirates usually attacked when the sea was calm and windless, conditions that rendered the sails of their prey useless while giving the perahus the upper hand with their oars. The attackers would attempt to row close to the hull of their target to stay beneath the sights of the ship's guns. They would then engage in hit-and-run skirmishes, sometimes lasting for hours, until the defenders were exhausted or had depleted their ammunition. Only then would the pirates board en masse. One of Panglima Awang's earliest recorded attacks took place in November 1832 off Pulau Tinggi, near Mersing in Johor. With 160 men in 15 or 16 prahus, he lay in wait to ambush a cargo boat from Singapore bound for Pahang. It carried 7 chests of opium, raw silk, rice, tobacco, and other goods, worth an estimated $12,000. It was a rich quarry, but a well-protected one, armed with 7 swivel guns and guarded by 33 armed Chinese crewmen. The defenders fended off the pirate attacks for over 2 hours. However, the boat then suffered a catastrophic explosion of its gunpowder magazine, which set the wooden deck and sails ablaze. Taking advantage of the chaos, the prahus closed in, and the pirates boarded the stricken vessel. Most of the Chinese crew leapt into the water under cover of darkness. Many drowned or were killed by the pirates, who slaughtered any survivors for fear they would report the incident or identify them to the authorities. However, the nakoda, or captain of the cargo boat, and 12 other crewmen survived by clinging to wooden debris until Malay fishermen rescued them the next day. In his later deposition to the police, the nakoda, a man named Pang, stated that he recognized one of the men leading the pirates as Panglima Awang, a Riau Chinese from Galang, whom he said had converted to Islam and dressed like a Malay. Awang's activities were closely tied to Galang, an island group at the southern tip of the Riau archipelago that served as his pirate stronghold. Galang was no ordinary island. It was virtually a pirate republic, home to a large kampong of Malays, along with a few Bugis and Chinese. More than 100 boats moved looted cargo from captured ships into the village after each raid. Plunder and slaves flowed from Galang to every corner of the Malay world. Awang was reputedly behind a particularly savage act of piracy near Teluk Ramunia in Johor in 1835, where a ship carrying opium and goods worth $10,000 was ambushed in broad daylight. The crew, caught at anchor, were mercilessly slaughtered. 27 Chinese killed, with only 2 survivors drifting to safety on a plank. Awang, already notorious, was widely believed to have orchestrated this massacre, allegedly operating with the protection of the Temenggung of Johor. In another bloody escapade that year, Awang reportedly chartered a cargo ship from a Chinese trader, only to murder the man and his companions upon returning from Palembang, making off with the cargo. Goods from that theft surfaced on the black market in Teluk Belanga, Singapore. Eyewitnesses later linked Awang to yet another brutal attack in the Karimun Straits near Riau, where 18 traders were slain and their boats captured, yielding brass guns, swivel guns, and a large shipment of sago. The British brig Helen later found one of the plundered boats adrift, with a headless corpse lying amidst what little remained of the cargo. In another reported incident in 1836, 4 prahus and 160 pirates attacked the brig Samduni, sailing from Nagore in India to Penang and Singapore, with a cargo of manufactured goods, ebony, rice, and other wares, along with 38 passengers. Though the pirate vessels were armed with Layla swivel guns, 4 on the larger boats and 2 on the smaller, their use was unnecessary. The crew of the cargo boat offered no resistance and promptly surrendered. Awang is reported to have seized a Chinese woman who was a passenger, leading her husband to throw himself overboard in despair and drown himself. The vessel was taken to Awang's base at Galang. Its sails and rigging were stripped, the hull burned, and the cargo sold to Chinese merchants residing there. 4 captured men were sold into slavery, though one was later released by his owner, and he reported the entire affair to the Singapore authorities. This attack gave Panglima Awang a rare distinction: infamy, in an era when most Malay pirate commanders remained nameless to the colonial authorities. His name began to circulate in the gossip of the markets and the pages of the Straits newspapers. Later that year, he even dared to challenge the might of the British Empire itself, crossing swords with its most formidable instrument, the Royal Navy. The encounter took place with the frigate HMS Andromache, a 130-foot pirate hunter armed with 28 32-pounder guns and crewed by 175 seamen. On the morning of 1st August 1836, Andromache's longboats, commanded by a Lieutenant Reed, were dispatched to investigate the Bengkalis Island and the mouth of the Siak River on the Sumatran coast. At Tanjung Jati, they were suddenly attacked by 160 men in 6 prahus, led by Panglima Awang. Awang had mistaken the British longboats for trading vessels from Siak, and realized too late that he was facing well-armed, disciplined British sailors. His pirate fleet had already been weakened days earlier by a pair of Dutch steamers, with 1 prahu destroyed and many men killed. Now he faced another European nemesis. Awang gave the order to open fire on the British, and battle ensued. The pirates were no match for the firepower of the British sailors, who wielded long-range Baker rifles, breech-loading swivel guns, and Congreve rockets. All 6 prahus were captured and burned. Panglima Awang reportedly ignited his own prahu's gunpowder magazine to avoid capture. The resulting explosion killed 1 British seaman and wounded several others who were boarding his ship. 6 were wounded in total, 4 of them severely. It is not known whether Panglima Awang perished in that explosion or escaped to fight another day. Either way, this is the last time his name appears in military dispatches or news reports related to piracy in the region. And it was around this time that Malay piracy in the Straits as a whole began to wane. His disappearance from the historical record coincides with the emergence of a new terror for pirates, the HMS Diana. As the battle with the Andromache showed, Royal Navy warships, though heavily armed, often struggled to match the speed and maneuverability of Malay pirate boats when the wind was still. But the Diana, the first steam-driven gunship in the East Indies, changed all that. With twin 40-horsepower paddles and a speed of 5 knots, she could outrun and outgun the prahus, especially upwind. Her arsenal included Congreve rockets and rapid rifle fire delivered by a crew of heavily armed seamen, 2 European officers, the captain, and 30 Malay sailors. Additional British Marines or native police were often carried in longboats towed astern. By the late 1870s, major incidents of piracy in Malayan waters had virtually disappeared. While petty piracy lingered, the grand operations led by men like Panglima Awang were no more. Today, his story is not found in school textbooks or tourist plaques, but it is very real. The incredible tale of a Chinese pirate who became a Malay Panglima, a Panglima who dared to defy the Royal Navy, a storm upon the sea whose legacy forced both native rulers and imperial powers to reckon with a world in violent transition. Thank you for watching. If this swashbuckling tale of pirate infamy stirred your curiosity, do consider giving the video a like, dropping anchor in the comments below, or subscribing to join me on future voyages through the sea of hidden histories of the Malay world. I remain as ever your grateful chronicler. Until our next adventure, safe harbors and fair winds. Cheerio!